What's up? It's another episode of Watch Is Strappin. These are not watch reviews. They're just quick wristwatch check of the day with a particular watch and strap pairing, just to show that off and get some people ideas. Maybe talk some things off the top of my head about a particular watch as well. And today I am on the Longines. This is a recent acquisition. It is the L2.606.4. It's a limited edition. I believe it was only available in Japan, circa 1995 or so. Not exactly sure the date, but that's the general, early or mid 90s is what I get. So this, at this time, early October 2023, it's basically nearly a 30-year-old watch. I mean, is that considered vintage now? Perhaps, but yeah. I've been wanting ever since Dunkirk came out, and that movie sort of put the limelight onto, watches, right? Like Christopher Nolan, time, perception and concepts of time, and a lot of times the watch will play a role in his movies. Say Interstellar for one, and Dunkirk. And inside that movie, one of the main actors rather, played by Tom Hardy, as an RAF Spitfire pilot, he had a similar watch, which these are basically, this general style is considered a Weems style of a pilot watch. It was, I believe, made famous or invented by, I believe it was Lieutenant Colonel Weems, the United States military, Air Force, I believe, in World War II. The general design of the A11, which the American had, and the I forget what the British designation is for their military watches of this general style. They had some lots of brands were making them. I'm not going to get the whole history about it, but Longines was one of them, the same with Omega. And so what you see in the movie Dunkirk was very similar to this style here, which is an Omega CK2129. Yeah, and then basically when you have a Weems style pilot watch, basically it primarily involves this bezel here, this timing bezel. And you'll see this US patent here that's basically for this bezel. And basically it's not really like a timing bezel, like in terms of a diver or even a rudimentary chronograph. This bezel is called a second setting bezel, and basically because there was a lack of hand or hacking watches back then, and you really wanted to make sure everybody was synchronized to the same signal and time, the way to get around that, the quickest way was doing basically offsetting or resetting the 0 point of the start of your minute. So for instance, you see the 60 is down by the 35 or 7 o'clock position. So if you notice on my watch, once it hits that 60, that's the top of the minute, and it will be 3:06, you can see. And so that's basically it. I mean, yeah, it's kind of weird not having the top of the minute, the seconds be at the 12, which we normally would sync, but if you could hack the watch, that's what you would do it for. And later on, these pilot watches eventually had, I believe, hacking movement, and thus they did away with the rotating bezel, and consequently the second crown that locks it in place is bidirectional friction fit bezel. So that got removed later on, and so you had a basic, imagine this without the timing bezel. It's just a very small, thin, smooth bezel, no second crown, and the rest of the dial is more or less the same. There's, again, several brands did these pilot watches for the Allies, British and military air forces, and they, over the time, they come and gone with different variations in their style as they could produce and as they saw fit. But anyways, I always like this style because, to be honest, a pilot watch could be very basic. Three-hander, seconds, minutes, hours, obviously, very clean, simple, easy to read dial, and that should be it. But generally, they're of course much larger size. This is 33 millimeters. I think they came in up to 34, and originally I think some of them even were as small as 27 millimeters. So this is actually the larger size that they produced later on, and kind of stuck with. I think basically the 33, 34 millimeter size was the common size for their pilot watches, as opposed to, I believe, the German, like say the Luftwaffe. They, their Air Force, their pilots ran with much larger watches that were 50, 55 millimeters, but they were meant to be. They had a different philosophy. They very easy to read, and of course they were really strapped around probably their jackets and gloves, so they have much more a larger area to cover anyways to wrap a larger watch around. But these were meant to be I believe stylish, well, not stylish, but worn outside of, say, being inside a cockpit. They can wear it under, their dress uniform or something, and keep it on them. Versus, I believe those watches for the pilots in the German, Luftwaffe, they would probably only wear those particular watches when they are in the cockpit and actually on a mission, on duty. As such. But anyways, yeah, so I wanted a watch like this for a while, sort of like so yeah, the one that you see in the movie Dunkirk, the Omega CK2129, yeah, very hard to find. If you could, probably pretty expensive. And as figured, the main 5 watch brands that made these watches back then were Omega, Longines, Movado, Zenith, and JLC. And of course, they have varying degrees. Crowns were in different positions. Sometimes they didn't even have a locking crown. And of course, there were versions eventually that did not have the rotating bezel. But this is what I like. It's not so plain. You got something interesting with the bezel, and a particular functionality that helps it become that helps them maintain accuracy, even though the watch movement doesn't hack. And just think overall, it's a cool utilitarian look. And for the size, you can see this up on my 7-inch wrist. I'm sure these would go on much larger wrists, but it doesn't actually work too bad. I find it's just a matter of getting acclimated to the new proportions of a smaller watch than I'm generally used to, which would be around 39 to 41 millimeters. But I kind of take it in the context of what this watch was and is now, and it's just a vintage piece used for pilots back in the day, back in the 40s, 1940s that is, and this is how they wore it. And I think despite its smaller than modern average size, I would say 33, 34 is pretty much a standard size for a good long while. And I think that having this bezel, rotating bezel with the oversized crowns altogether helped to actually beef up the visual wrist presence on it. But yeah, this thing is basically under 10 millimeters thick, manual wind movement. It's an ETA 2801 of some sorts, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, but it's been surprisingly accurate too. Over the past couple of days, for at least 2 days in a row on separate occasions, it's been giving me basically about +1, maybe barely +2 seconds a day for a watch that's about 30 years old, and who knows when the last time it was serviced. I should probably look into that, but I was just had to find out. Even though putting it on a time grapher, I was getting some much different readings, like either slower, noticeably slower, or noticeably a lot faster. But you can't go by everything what a time grapher tells you. It's a good baseline to kind of know what to expect, but it doesn't really tell the whole story, the true story. And it really comes down to actual wear, wrist time, the way you use it or move. The temperature also will affect its accuracy as well. And of course, being on wrist, it could warm up and all that, or if you're in extreme cold temperatures, that could affect it as well. But anyways, on the wrist is the way you want to always truly gauge the performance of your watches, and that's what I always do. And so far, I can't say I'm disappointed. Much better than, again, when I put this initially on the time grapher, it was giving me. It seemed much faster or somewhat slower than what it is now, which is basically about +1, maybe +2 seconds a day. And yeah, not bad. Longines has been great at doing heritage pieces, and I think that I was thinking also if they were to do a pilot's watch, the Weems would be cool. And out of any of those 5 manufacturers that originally made them, Movado, Omega, Longines, JLC, and Zenith, really Longines seems like the most capable and most likely candidate to reissue stuff like that. And then they have, like they did a version of their pilot's watch in 36 millimeters, but still very true to one of their early pilot watches, the military heritage. It's got that kind of cream speckled dial, blued hands too. No bezel though, it's very smooth. And then they have some other military pieces that are, technically the Big Eye is one, although I believe it never actually was made into production or actual service, if I recall the story around the Big Eye chronograph navigation. But yeah, that looks like very much like a very cool potential military watch back then. And then they also have some other stuff that they pulled from their catalog from the mid-century or so, and which is really nice stuff. I like their tuxedo dial, like simple handle, but their chronographs. But anyways, there we go. This is on talking about straps, of course. This did not come on its original strap. The Longines leather strap was maybe the touch thinner. It definitely had white contrast stitching all the way around, even around the keepers from what I've seen. This is the original buckle that the strap would have come with, though. It's kind of like this rib texture. But they did, who I bought this from on eBay from Japan, they did replace it with an aftermarket one of some sort, some Japanese brand, but it's Italian leather. I don't know. It seemed like it would be too stiff and thick for what this watch is, but actually it's much softer and actually works. It kind of adds a little bit of beefiness to the overall look, and I think that works out really well with this particular style of watch. To make it less diminutive, just to feel more truly. I mean, they are 16 millimeters after all, too, which is the smallest I've ever gone. But I said, I took a gamble. I really wanted to try this style out, and I think it's pretty cool. Anyways, babbling on a little bit more than I usually do, I would say, for a watch a Strappin episode, but there it is. So anyways, thanks for watching, and yeah, enjoy your watches. I'll see if I keep this. I would like to. It's one of 1,000 pieces only, pretty limited, and I think it's pretty faithful replication of what the watches they used to do is pretty cool. They do have a 36 millimeter version, but I'll get into that some other time. It isn't quite true to what they had, and there's some other details which I didn't really like. But this felt like the one to go with, and I'm glad I found out about it and was able to get it. Yeah, thanks for watching.